What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with another EmergeNYC Rewind. This week was a massive update on part of the devs, and they're making a call to action here, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video. For right now, let's go over all the new stuff and some of the old stuff that's being shown kind of in a new light. As always, this is early gameplay footage. It's pre-alpha at this point, so all this stuff is prone to change, artwork, animations, whatever else. Bear that in mind. In fact, we've already seen some changes in this that are different from last week's video. So starting off, shows the Ladder 66. I think this is all new stuff, our first time seeing the actual stations and like the engines and stuff labeled. We get a look at a firefighter here. Not in complete bunker gear, he does have the helmet on. Now this one's a little bit interesting right here, because we've got an officer, he's doing the whole T-pose. Now if you guys played Emergency 4, this is a very familiar pose. This is the one that they used to block off civilians from entering the area. It's very likely that with the AI functionality, you'll be able to set the AI police to actually block off civilians in a similar fashion. This pose is likely to change some. It's, I don't know, something's off with the officer. I think it's the eyes that are throwing me off. But other than that, pretty basic stuff. So let's go ahead and play some more. Here we see the cars are pulled over, so it appears. We don't see anybody inside the vehicles, but they are driving. And the thing is even though there's no one inside the vehicle, it's very likely that that's just because they haven't gotten that in still. I do think those cars are actually pulling over, though, so it looks like they've kind of fixed some of the bugs with that. This is the same footage we went over last week. And, you know, this is all pretty basic stuff right here. Once again, this is something we covered last week, so watch that video if you guys are wanting to go over this. Now, this is something kind of interesting. This is something that's actually months old. However, I want to talk about this because this was from before the split in the development team, before EmergeNYC and Responding became two separate things. I did not know whether or not the stuff that was created before that point would be retained under EmergeNYC or how that was split. So to see this system is still in the game is very cool, and we'll actually get to see this in a more practical setting a little bit later here. But as you can see, if you guys haven't seen this before, when the hood is closed, you don't really have any smoke escaping the vehicle, but the second you pop that hood, all this smoke starts billowing out like crazy. Here we've got the Manhattan mod. They're just kind of talking about their past development experience and stuff like that. Right now they're also kind of comparing their equipment, the stuff they've made, and to real life. Now you can see right here, things are getting a little bit crazy. Cars are pulling over. The bus hits that vehicle. The bus hits the taxi. The car hits the bus. But it's definitely more subtle than before, to be sure. So here we've got first person. Actually, this one just totally escaped me while I was taking my notes and stuff. So you can see first person. You're in the officer's chair. You've got your computer right there, which is still incomplete. But that's very cool that you get to ride shotgun. So you got the ambulances and stuff here. You got squad. Not a whole lot special being talked about. I do believe this is actually the first time seeing a different form of weather being put into the city itself as opposed to just the tech demo. So you can actually see the rain hitting the ground. It does appear that my one gripe with the rain where it's just kind of hitting in the air and splashing has been fixed. It's actually hitting the ground here. It's making it the whole way down. So that's a nice change. Looks really good. I mean, it might not be Grand Theft Auto's rain, but it definitely looks really pretty nonetheless. Going through, you can see some vehicles popping in with the draw distance. He's going into oncoming traffic, you know. You got your police vehicles. Traffic's not pulling over. Now, bear in mind, some of this has probably been pulled from a number of different times and sources. So here we've got a look. We've got third-person control over a firefighter. We've seen this a little bit, but this is what gameplay should actually feel like. You can also see there's a firefighter controlling the engine, and then there's a guy on the hose on the attack line. Now, none of the civilians or AI are moving. This is likely because AI has not been implemented for the players yet, for character models. If this is anything like the other Manhattan mod and stuff like that, you will probably have to have somebody actually controlling the engine. So, just some more stuff that we've kind of seen before. You know, they're all responding to that fire. These are same things from that last video they did. There was something I forgot to take notes on, so before I forget to mention it, they have said that you will be able to play this either single player or in 32 multiplayers. That's right, 32 players in multiplayer. So you got Halligan, you got your hose right here. So go back here real quick. So you can see with the hose, it is actually attached. The hose moves around with you. There's physics for all of that. Here he is on top of a building. This is likely something that he was just placed up here. In this case, you know, you can't really tell if there's ladders or if he climbed a ladder. Once again, same gripe with the last video is, for all we know, they just took the AI and said, hey, you're on top of this building. He didn't actually climb a ladder to get up there, just to make a pretty scene. So we've got a lot of tools here. Some of these actually look like this looks like a port of their Manhattan mod medical case. But if you look, they've got like power drills, they've got a toolbox. I mean, you've got your expected things like the chainsaw and the Halligan, and you know, they've even got a hose nozzle and stuff. So there's a lot of tools we'll be able to use. I'm going to be interested to see how some of these are implemented, specifically the power drill. I can't really say I've ever seen a situation in like any other emergency game where you've used a power drill. Same with the toolbox. It's kind of interesting to see what that's used for. You know, you've got your basic stuff. This will obviously be used to cut open a vehicle. You've got your K-12s. You got, like I said, the chainsaw, your basic fire axe. I was kind of curious about the generator, but now I'm wondering if we'll actually have to set up the generator and then hook up your hydraulic stuff to it. So here's what I was talking about with the car in game, the vehicle fires. This is, you know, what it's currently looking like. You can see a more practical thing where the does not controlling it. The player actually goes and opens the car. So let's get another look at that. So yeah, he's popping the hood himself. You can see the fire starts coming like crazy. You can still see the fire kind of spurting through before then. Subways have been added. Working subway cars. Or at least somewhat working. Pretty cool. Now this is one of the more interesting aspects of the video here from a technical standpoint. This is the fire spreading. You can see basically when it creates fire, you can see all these dots are presumably all the things for fire that's being created, all the entities or whatever it's supposed to be. And you can see it spread up the wall and it starts to spread around. So it is actually spreading live. It's not just something he's just placed fire here and that's where the fire is. The fire is actually spreading. You can see it spreading on the floor. So let's try to slow this down some here just so you can take a look at it. So you can see it spreading out everywhere. Before we get too far, I just also want to talk about some of this other stuff too. You can see some of their settings here for what they use for the fire. So you got burn layers, fire layers, all this stuff, fire speed. So they've actually got all these variables for the fire. So they can control the speed of the fire. They can control the surface size. There's different types of things. So if it's a wood floor, it spreads this fast. How the likeliness that it will spread, versus a wood wall, which is a little bit. Well, actually, wood wall is pretty much the same, but actually, this is all wood, so that's kind of a bad example. But if you had concrete in here, they could say, well, concrete doesn't spread as fast as wood, or it's not as likely to spread as wood, or whatever. You've got fuel and stuff like that, so I'm presuming fuel's how long it lasts or something. It's hard to say because I'm not really sure what their setup for that is, but it's kind of interesting to see what goes into it. Just a real basic thing here. He's breaking the window. Building interior here. This is just a really brief shot. This is a small fire. A lot of white smoke. It's kind of thick smoke in here, but this is just like a little garbage can fire that's been going probably for a while. Here we can actually see he is grabbing, the main line off the front of the engine here. He's hooking it up, so, you do have a feed there. You've got the animation. So that was one of the things I talked about, is you don't get to see these guys actually setting all that up. I don't know if that's because of that mention I made, or if that's just something they had planned to show anyways, but there that is, so you get to see them setting it up. Here you can actually see him hitting the car on fire. Obviously this could use a little bit of work as far as the particle effects go, but it looks pretty good. And it's hard to tell just because of how fast it is and how quick it is, but it almost looks like the fire is going down as he hits it with the hose. So it does look like that is working. Once again, the same thing we showed off last week. So here we're inside the police station. I think we've seen this police station interior before in some of their older videos from like ages back. So they kind of talk about police control here. We don't see a whole lot, but they do talk about it a little bit in this next segment. You can see in the background we've got interior of the fire station with the engine lights running. Here's an interior of the police station. You can see outside. So this is generated live. This isn't separate instance or anything. So when they're talking about the police department, I'm just going to throw this into slow-mo here. When they're talking about the police department, they basically have said their goal for the police is to have less violent interactions on the majority of calls. So you'll still have your robberies and your shootouts and stuff. There'll still be gunplay and, elements of weapons and things like that. But the emphasis will be on ticketing people. You'll be doing traffic stops. You'll be doing hostage negotiation. If you are taking out a suspect, ideally it will be non-lethal. So, using a taser, I guess presumably tackling or punching the subject or something, or trying to take them peacefully if possible. If there's somebody illegally parked, you'll be able to ticket them. So that's the kind of things they want to put emphasis on as the police. So you will still have your hostage situations in which you will have to go in and guns blazing. Other times you'll be able to say, hey, why don't you come on out? We'll talk about this, give up your hostage or whatever. Now, they haven't said how this all will work. They haven't said what their plans are to make sure that, on the whole, interactions are less lethal, but that is their goal, and that's kind of a nice goal to hear. A lot of games don't really allow for that sort of thing. So they're going to go on a little bit further here. You can see some more police car stuff. The high-rise is in effect. Traffic's not around or anything, so it's not like he's actually performing a traffic stop. Chances are a lot of that functionality, and the reason you don't see it is because it's not in the game yet. They're putting a big emphasis on the fire department first, and then police and EMS coming later, but that doesn't mean their plans for police or EMS are any less big. So now they kind of talk about EMS some here. Now, just like the police, you don't get to see a whole lot with the EMS, but what their plans basically come down to is they want I don't know why I'm pausing. They want the medical system to be very in-depth. They want you to get on scene, and when you're on scene, you're not just pressing a single button to heal the guy and then taking him to the hospital. You are in there. Okay, I'm going to pause it because now it's skipping ahead. You are in there. You're actually treating your patient. If they get hit by a bus, you might have to treat them differently than if they received a gunshot wound. You'll have medications you'll be able to apply. You'll have, quote, life-saving techniques, stuff like that. So it won't just be a simple press a button and take them to the hospital. You will actually have to try and save your patient. You will have to be at least somewhat knowledgeable. I'm presuming there will be either a mode or an option for players who don't want to be bothered to have to learn that can just say, hey, assign an AI to take care of that patient for me, or I want a less difficult version, so I just want to press a button. I'm sure something like that will be in for the more average players, or the more I'm trying to think of a better word for it than average, because obviously I think the average player who wants to support this game wants that sort of detail. But anyways, going on, we've got another shot of the subway, this time from the actual train. You can see all sorts of advertisements. There's lighting and stuff like that. Here's a shot of the city from above. This makes it look a lot better from this distance, too. When you get close up to a couple of these textures, need a little bit of polishing, but bear in mind, once again, pre-alpha. So here's another shot of that building interior. So you can see the smoke hasn't spread necessarily a whole lot over here. It's really thick by the fire. Presumably the longer that fire lasts, not only is it more likely to spread up this wall, but the smoke will get thicker throughout the office the longer that fire exists too. I'm presuming he's just going to go grab the garbage can and carry it out on fire because he doesn't have even an extinguisher or anything. Another shot of the subway. They're just kind of talking about the interiors, the number of fire departments there will be. So that's kind of the last of my notes. So let's talk a little bit about the purpose of this trailer. So, because from here on out, they're just talking about things that we've already discussed in past videos, just things within like the last month or two. The purpose of this video is to do more fundraising for the game. Now, if you guys have been around with EmergeNYC for a while, you know that they've already raised $10,000, and they in fact talk about this in this video. You might say, wow, $10,000 is a lot when 911 operator is only wanted $6,000, but they raised actually $37,000 with their Kickstarter. Now, here's the thing, though. This is a very complex game that they're making here. Well, right now this might not have the quality of a AAA game. It does have a very high quality to it at this point already. So, I mean, they're asking for $100,000, so it's 10 times what they asked for. It is a very large amount for an indie game, but at the same time, for game development, it's not actually all that unrealistic. And, it's one of those things I would say, be sure you want to invest in, but actually seriously consider it. I personally can't think of a good emergency game since Emergency 4. We've got that new firefighter simulator that's supposed to be coming out, I believe, next year. And that looks pretty interesting. I haven't seen a whole lot on it, but it actually looks like the best firefighting game I've seen, once again, since Emergency 4. Because if you look at a lot of other emergency games since then, I mean, there isn't really a whole lot of good ones. I mean, the best emergency game is probably LCPD or LSPDFR, and that has nothing to do with firefighting or EMS. So, that will be on their Indiegogo page. I will have a link for that in the description. Then, like I said, the rest of this video is just kind of discussing the team members and their goal here for raising the more money. And they basically said that, at the very least, regardless of what they raise, they will continue with the project. They'll do whatever they can with the money they have. But obviously, the more money they have, the better the results can be. Just like I said, donate with caution. Make sure you are well aware what you're getting into. Understand that this game is in development. What you've seen in this video, what they've put out before, is all prone to changing. Everything could change. And even the best developers fail sometimes. So just, think about that too. These are guys with experience, but, anybody can fail, even when you do everything right. So I think we'll end the video on that. Once again, if you guys are interested in helping them out, check out their Indiegogo page in the description below. If you guys want to see more videos like this, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to tell me you want to see more, because that's always a good indicator. Otherwise, just stay tuned, and I will probably keep updating you guys on this. Alright, you guys have a good night.